Three, two, one. Welcome, everybody. This is the 67th episode of the #Investors podcast. I am your host, Scott Bauer. Today, we have Batch, skiptracing.com. We got Ivo and Jesse with us today. Fellas, how you doing?
Great. Awesome. How you doing?
I'm doing good. That wasn't very I'm not really sold on that answer from you guys. How's the Thursday morning treating you so far?
It's been good. We've been busy. We just bought a commercial building, so we're doing like $100,000 reno in that and running around, and our team's out there doing their morning huddle. So just rocking and rolling.
Absolutely. Nice, man. That's exciting. Well, we'll dive into that. A little bit about these guys. So Batch Skip Tracing is a data provider. And I'm going to let them tell you a little bit more about that, but I can tell you that both of them have been in the real estate investment space for quite some time and have a lot of knowledge and experience they can bring to the call today. So, fellas, why don't you give the listeners a little bit more about your background, really what you're focused on now, and then we'll chat.
Sure. So I've been investing, obviously, first and foremost, we're full-time real estate investors as well, wholesalers. We buy and sell houses, fix and flip, hotel, all of the above. I've been in the real estate industry since 2008. I started fixing and flipping, transitioned into rentals in 2012, transitioned into wholesaling in 2015. And then we just started buying a lot of data, playing around with just different data sets, and got into the skip tracing game, list building. And that's some of the values that, some of the things that we provide to people nowadays.
Okay. Jesse, how about you?
I got into wholesaling like 2015. I worked for a real estate investor in 14 with a friend, Danielle Kroll. Me and her were both working for him at the time. And at that time, we were finding properties, on the market, on the MLS, and fixing and flipping them and holding them. And I pretty much got laid off because you could no longer do that anymore. And then me and her, created a company 6 months later and started wholesaling.
It's so funny how that happens all too often, right? I mean, you start working for somebody, things either go good or they go bad, or you just decide that, hey, I want to go do this on my own, right? You probably made the better decision with going and doing that to begin with, right?
Yeah, I made about $32,000 for him that year, so I think it's been a little better since.
Yeah, of course. Well, let's kind of dive into it a little bit. So, Ivo, you started off fix and flipping in 2008, right?
Correct.
2008 was the start of the downturn, really, and that was really close to the bottom of the barrel. So how was that? We'll just touch on this for a second. How was that flipping in that market cycle?
I got lucky. I mean, we picked up a house with a friend of mine. We split up everything 50-50. I got a hard money loan for $50K. Put the rest of the money down. I think we bought the property for $76, if I'm not mistaken. We did all the work ourselves. Sold it 3 months later for $128. We both made about $13,000 each and never stopped.
He actually has a good story on that house, what you were doing. He was working after work till like 2 a.m.
Oh yeah, we were like every day. We were like, putting wood floors, just doing kitchens 2-3 o'clock in the morning.
You guys were doing all the work, man, swinging the hammer.
Yeah.
He was telling me his friends would show up drunk at 2 a.m. and like swing by the house and say what's up to him on the weekends. So
yeah, that was after the old town.
Yeah. Oh, I get that. Well, how did it transition? I mean, you've gone from that to then you were buying and holding, you said in 2012.
Yeah, there's a different piece to like kind of even my story. I did a lot of contracting work for the city of Phoenix, just the different municipalities as a subcontractor. And so real estate was more of a part-time game for me until 2015. And 2012, I just bought some rentals. Everything was part-time for me up until 2015. And then that's when I kind of decided to, I wanted to do it full-time. Houses were getting harder and harder to come by. I was noticing a lot of started obviously buying from a lot of wholesalers. Started noticing a lot of assignment fees being added on top of and the settlement statement. And that's when I kind of started looking into what wholesaling is. And that's how I transitioned into what I do today.
And so that was 2015, obviously it's 2019. So for the last 4 years, has your primary focus been on the wholesaling side for the real estate side of your business, or are you still fix and flipping?
We still do some fix and flips. We do some hotels, just some, easier, just paint and carpet jobs as well. And primarily, I'd say probably 80% is wholesale.
So let's talk to the listeners. I'm pretty sure most of them are going to know, but what is the big benefit to wholesaling versus fix and flipping?
I mean, there's a lot. I'd say, obviously a fix and flip, it takes, 3, 4, 5 months if everything goes smoothly. Until you get your money, there's a lot of risk, a lot of time, effort, and wholesaling. I mean, you can potentially make the same amount of money with
More a lot of the time.
Sometimes, yeah. With very little risk. I mean, I'm not even buying the property. I'm not putting down my own cash. It's
a beautiful thing, isn't it? It's just a beautiful thing.
It is, but we are in the marketing business. So I know you, Scott, and ourselves, we do spend quite a bit of money on marketing. So it's not all rainbows and butterflies, but like we do put a lot of money out on marketing, but our return is, between 5 and 10x probably on most of our marketing channels, and we get the money quickly, but it's still a lot of work that goes into it for sure.
Of course it is. I mean, and I want to just kind of outline very quickly for the listeners. So when you do a fix and flip, you have to take down, either probably borrow money or use your own money to buy the property to begin with. You have to pay for the renovations. You got to pay the taxes, the insurance, HOA potentially while you are flipping the property. And you have market, the market may go up, it may go down in the time that you own it. So that's where the risk really comes in. And like Ivo said, you're not going to get paid on that deal until 3, 4, maybe 5 months later, right? I mean, that's given that everything goes as planned. So just a lot more risk. As we're in wholesaling, all of a sudden you can contract the property and you can flip that contract and make, like you said, the same amount and not do any of the work and have none of the risk involved. So that's what I say it's beautiful.
Oh, absolutely. I just sometimes people think that wholesaling is easier than it is, but I agree on exactly what you're saying. There's a reason why we do 80 or 90% wholesale and 10% flipping. The only time we really flip a home is if all the investors that we're trying to sell it to are undervaluing the property and we see it differently. So, we can make, $35,000 instead of wholesaling it for $5,000. That's normally the slim occasions that we try and take something like that down. Definitely.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I agree with that too. I mean, more sophisticated investors out there are going to see values differently. If you're able to do that, then you can build a bit better spread in for yourself. But go ahead. What were you going to say?
But there's, we bought a couple houses the past couple of months. It was, really, it's not a wholesale deal, more of a hotel. I mean, everything's, property's in good condition. It's just a matter of just putting it on the MLS. And, some of these deals don't, are not the perfect wholesale deals for, a fix and flipper.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, how did that transition into, really at the beginning of the call, we talked about your data provider at this point, right? So how did all this leading up to this point turn into, okay, now you're selling data? What does that mean for the listeners out there that are curious about who cares about data?
Data is huge. Funny enough is I met actually both of you at the Go Giver meetup with Brandon Simmons.
Yep.
And me and Ivo went to lunch together one day, and I recently just lost TLO, so I was looking for data. And he's like, hey, I could help you. I'm selling it a little bit, doing this and that. So I don't even know how it came up. And then we ultimately, he was already doing batch skip tracing on like a smaller level. And then I was like, well, I have some friends that want to use it. How do I get paid off of it? And then ultimately I started bringing a ton of people and we decided to partner on it. And then from there, he's obviously the smarter one of the two of us. And he continually was helping me with my wholesale operation. And we just started creating companies off of me needing help off stuff. We have a lead stacking company, raw data. He's able to dig and find all this stuff and present it in an easy, user-friendly way to me because I'm not the most analytical person. So I'm a good guinea pig for stuff like that. And it just kind of morphed into us needing it for our companies and then people reaching out wanting to start using our products and services.
Yeah, I think as the market gets a little bit more technical, as more people come into the market and, Ivo, you said this at the beginning of the call, it's harder and harder to find these deals. So what can you do that separates yourself and finding data points that are going to be able to lead you down the path of being able to find these off-market deals, right?
Yeah, this is what he could talk about.
Well, obviously, data is king. I mean, that's one of the things that people don't take sometimes as serious as they should. But think about like, you can get any kind of list. Let's say, think about like, tax default list. What if you could potentially stack that tax default list with, a pre-foreclosure list or a vacant property list, through the USPS? I mean, you're just narrowing down, like, obviously you're just stacking lists, and you're figuring out which one of those people are on multiple lists and have different pain points, and targeting and focusing on those lists is going to return with, in terms of like ROI at the end of the day. Then how do you contact these people? I mean, you need phone numbers, you need email addresses. That's where the skip tracing obviously comes in play. And the way we started doing it is we just needed like better data for ourselves. We started digging around, and then we found the data providers and the things that we need to be able to like get numbers for people. And then it's like, well, that's just, how do you get your costs down? You just buy more of it,
Yep.
So that's just how the whole business started. And we do for a lot of investors. I mean, nowadays, a lot of investors reach out to us. Hey, I have this in this list. I need phone numbers. I need to be able to contact these people. I need like sometimes the data cleaned, the lists cleaned. We do like address standardization. Obviously, if you're mailing 50,000 mailers a month, you want to make sure those addresses are getting delivered. So that's
Right.
one of the things one of our softwares does as well. Batch lead stacker as well. So there's a lot of pieces that go hand in hand with the data. And we just try to help out investors and provide value to them.
Are you only targeted towards investors, or are you also helping out real estate agents and things like that? Maybe partnering up with brokerages that are out there that are able to provide, you can provide this data to those people?
So I guess indirectly, we've had title companies starting to reach out to us for lists and skip tracing, which they're doing. A lot of this is for realtors who are targeting or farming markets. They may want phone numbers. They may want to know this or that. So we partnered with a few title companies because realtors are asking for it, but it's on a much smaller scale than what we're doing as wholesalers. But we're starting to help a few of them as well.
Well, and funny that you guys are bringing this up, because on episode 65, I had Alan Goodman with he's a mail house that I've used. You may or may not know who he is, but we talked about the same type of concept of where you really have to dive into the data. And that's where you can, the power, if you're mailing out, the power is in the list that you have. And if you have a crappy list, you're going to have crappy results. You're not going to get what you want out of it. And so to be able to really fine tune that data when I'm mailing out, or when anybody's mailing out, is probably the most important part in order to be able to see if you're going to have success with that mail campaign. Right. So for you guys, are you mailing as well?
We're going to start again. Actually, mail is kind of making a little bit of a comeback from what we've been told.
Yeah. You know what's super funny about that? Everybody like 3 months ago said, mail's not working. I'm getting on the phone and we're dialing. You know what I did? I ramped it up. And you know what happened? I got all my calls because nobody else is mailing. So now all of a sudden, instead of people getting 15, 20 letters in the mail, they're getting mine. And they call me because I'm not stopping. Right.
Right.
So, that I just think that's funny because you're right. It's making a comeback because it works.
It does. And I got your letter literally 3 days ago. I could probably go find it on my desk right now. So
don't worry. You'll get another one. Don't worry.
I get them at my office and my home address from you. So you target a lot of stuff for sure.
Yep. Well, we've been able to buy, and get access to a lot of opportunities that I wouldn't otherwise found if I wasn't mailing. And I think the consistency over time is really important. But, we won't talk about that because that's, obviously not what the call is about. It's all about data. And I want to know more about why you guys think it's really important for people and the listeners out there to really look at their data. So break it down to me.
Go ahead. So as far as like skip tracing, there's different companies that obviously there's, probably just, you can Google 15 different companies will show up as far as skip tracing. There's different data sets. There's, regulated data, non-regulated data. There's, like companies like TLO, which provide obviously very good quality data. If you can get TLO, great for you. Then obviously there's companies that are like Data Zap, Data Finder. Those companies are going to be, at the very bottom of the quality list. We've done a lot of skip tracing say we've done a lot of skip tracing,
testing data set,
testing a data set with different companies, the same data set with different companies. Results vary from like 2% match rates to as much as about 65% match rates. So there's a difference when it comes to, if you're skip tracing, there's a difference when it comes to like what a hit rate is and what a match rate is. So a hit rate is, like let's say you provide me a list of 1,000 names, you get back 98 names. You had a 98% hit rate on that data
998.
998, yeah. So what's the actual match rate though? How many of those phone numbers that came back to you were actually correct? So the way we test this is we get a data set we know it has the correct phone numbers. We test it against every provider out there. And again, companies like DataZap, I'll give you an example. We tested a file in Arizona and a file in Florida about 2-3 months ago. DataZap had a 2% match rate. That Data Finder had about a 3% match rate.
And ours is about 55%.
Ours is about 55% actual match rate, actual correct phone numbers. In reality, it's going to be a little bit higher with all of these companies, just because the data set that we had was a little bit unclean as far as first names, last names, but I kept it consistent, and I did that on purpose just because, people, when they usually send us files, it's never perfect.
Right.
Files are never perfectly clean. So that's part of the reason why I kept it a little bit unclean. Some person may have had a missing first name. Some person may have had a missing last name, those types of things. Then there's other companies out there. I just don't want to mention them right now, but there's, 15, 20, 25% match rate is kind of what you see in the averages. If you just Google just a regular company, and you're probably going to get about a 25% actual match rate. So 25% of the numbers you got appended came back
actually right. So that's kind of the misconception, Scott, is you'll see people talk about these high hit rates, but ultimately your hit rate doesn't matter if it's the wrong person or the wrong data set.
Right.
So like we've been on this mission to explain that hit rate and match rate are two totally different things. And it matters what's actually right, because some of these skip tracing companies will, I guess, kind of like fill their data with, they're not sure, they'll just throw like the name and address in there if it's could potentially be correct, or they're kind of like guessing with their phone numbers and emails, and it's not the right person and not the right information. So people talk about these huge hit rates, which is completely irrelevant. We want to know which numbers are matched properly, and we're getting a hold of these people. Let it be text messaging, cold calling, or ringless voicemails. Like you want to have the right person in front of you.
Yeah, because the worst thing is if you call on somebody or you're reaching out to somebody, it's the totally wrong person, right? And Absolutely. Not only does it make you look terrible, but you're not getting what you need out of it, right?
It's wasting money. I mean, just think about it. I mean, there's a company out in Florida, in Tampa, that they had a great data set. Then they filled it up with a bunch of junk data. I mean, literally junk data, just to increase their hit rate. So now, if you skip trace with them, they're skip tracing 98, 99% hit rate, which is unheard of. I mean, the credit bureaus can't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, at face value, it looks, well, I got 98% of my records back with phone numbers. That's
it's perceived value. They're just giving perceived values is ultimately what they're doing. And that's why we're kind of on a mission to explain the difference between, what actually comes back and what's actually accurate.
Well, so the listeners that are listening to this might not even know what you're talking about. Some of them maybe don't pull data like this. So, I guess let me try to explain it, and I want to have you correct me. Okay. So if you're going to go out there, let's say for the listeners, if you're mailing and you get a raw data list of, let's say, 10,000 names, and you get the names and the addresses, maybe it's a high equity list. These people have high equity in their home, and you also want to call these people. So what you do is you take the names and the addresses and you'll send it through a skip trace system that
Correct.
Will pull the other data for them. So that could be phone numbers, that could be relatives, that could be relatives' phone numbers, and all the data that goes with that person. So now all of a sudden you can not only mail them, but then you can also be calling them at the same time and kind of hit them from two different sides, and
or text them as well.
Right. But if you're sending this data in to get skip traced and it brings you back the wrong information, or you're paying, what is it? How much is it per record typically for skip trace?
You can go between 16, 17, 18 cents, 35 cents. I mean, if you're using a company, there's companies out there selling like a phone appended data for 3 cents, like DataZap.
That's why you have
DataZap is it's 3 cents
But you're definitely explaining it much better than we are in layman's terms. I guess we're too close to it probably.
Probably that, and because I like to keep things simple, right? And that's the only way to go about it. But I'm saying that if you're going to send off a 10,000 name list, and it's going to cost you, let's say, it costs you 10 cents, right, for each one of those records,
right?
And so that's a good chunk of change that you're going to be spending on just data. And if you're
spending $1,000, for those records,
at least
just for that. And if the data is not real, if it's not potent and it's not the real stuff, then you just wasted that money, right?
Absolutely.
So what have you guys been able to do to really get your match rate up compared to the competition? And how are you selling that? Or for the listeners, how do they benefit by using like you guys? Because at the end of this call, we're going to leave this in the show notes, how they can reach out to you, because, I think it's an important piece that they need to know about.
Absolutely. I mean, we actually help people like clean up their data when they first submit it. We actually had an API connection. We still do actually. And we found out a lot of people don't use it for the simple fact that people need help cleaning up their data. So they actually need a little bit of hand holding. Hey, I have this list. Can you help me just clean it up? I've worked with Excel files before. I just don't know how to clean it up properly so I can get the maximum amount of hit rates. So we obviously clean up the files. We try to standardize it through the USPS, make sure that the addresses are, the address. So if you're having let's say 123 West Main Street or address, and then the other address, let's say, has 123 West Main without the street address, we try to standardize those just to increase the amount of hit rates. And obviously we get very good quality data in the first place. So, but that's one of those things we help people just clean up their files. We spend 10, 15, 20 minutes per file, just cleaning it up and making sure it's going to get the most amount of match rate.
Absolutely
possible.
And we also have a list company to where people kept asking us for raw data because they're like, okay, where do we get this? So now we're providing raw data. We try and give it for the best price we possibly can. Some of our products we don't make any money on. If you are doing the cold calling and text messages, we have a litigation scrub service to where you go upload your file and then you could get back records of lawyers, relatives of lawyers, people that have filed with the DNC or made some type of complaint. We make no money on this. We lose money on this every month. We give it away for free because we want people to make sure that they're not doing things the wrong way. So we're just trying to pretty much make it all in one for people to where they could come start using our services and know it's going to be, quality stuff.
Well, if you were to provide, data to somebody and then all of a sudden they get in trouble for, calling on that data, they're not going to come back to you again for data, right? So in a way you're losing money if you look at the dollars and cents every month, but in all reality, you're not, because you're actually providing a service that's kind of an ancillary service that has to be attached to it in order for you to have repeat business, right?
Completely agree.
Absolutely. And it's not a free service, by the way. I mean, we offer it for free for people, but it's not we pay for it every single month.
Right.
So.
And what does your operation look like from the data side of things? Because, at the beginning of the call, we talked about you're still wholesaling, fixing and flipping. How much of your time is spent on the data side? And, I guess that goes into the next question. Where's the next 5 years for you guys? Are you trying to wean out of the actual real estate side of things and focus primarily on data, or is it 50-50? Talk to us about that for a minute.
I think we're trying to right now, our goal is to try to systemize our wholesaling operation as much as possible. I don't want to say outsource it because you can't outsource the wholesale operation, but we're trying to systemize it as much as we can and have it run,
Yeah. We have some really good sales managers that are really strong. I think if you have the right people in place, it could kind of run itself. Like people are saying they want to streamline it fully. I've talked to a lot of big wholesalers. I don't know if you could ever be fully out of the operation, but we're hoping to get to maybe, 10, 15, 20% of our week is spent on wholesaling, which I think is potentially feasible if done properly.
Yeah, I think you should run, your wholesale operation on a Monday morning meeting, on maybe a midweek meeting, and maybe a Friday meeting, and you can really keep tabs of everything and making sure that everybody's accountable. That's kind of how you do that. Easier said than done, though, right?
Yes,
it is.
So,
And then let me just continue on. Just as far as where we see like everything going, we are dedicating a lot of time into the data companies. We're building out like some softwares. We have three actually the full-time developers right now. Just building out softwares. We have a couple of softwares in the process, but obviously the batch lead stacker is one of those softwares.
Mm-hmm.
It's a database management tool, list stacking software. You're gonna be able to like text message from it, just text message marketing.
Mail too, right? Potentially,
yeah, if there's a need for it. Mailing, address standardization. It finds vacant properties real time through the USPS. So that's one of the things that we're finishing up, and we are, that's kind of where our focus is primarily right now. And I'd say probably 70-80% of the time, though.
We do have a third partner, his sister Annie. So I want to shout her out. Like,
she's running the operation actually right now.
So she's actually running more of the operation. That's why the three of us partnered together for the wholesale side of things. So me and him could spend a little bit more time trying to grow the data side, and we're going to be dabbling in a little bit of coaching as well. But it's completely related to data and how to maximize your data. So those are kind of like our new projects we're working on.
Now, who is this for? So, we're primarily in the residential space. Who else could benefit from using the data and being able to use your service to scrub data or to find? Who is this for?
Our primary target is wholesalers. We do have people reaching out to us. Hey, I have an ex-boyfriend I need to track down. I've seen those.
Private investigators you guys are turning into.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, private investigators do skip tracing. So do people that are trying to collect on, bad credit or debt, I guess. So, but we're trying to stay singularly focused on, the real estate investor space. It's what we do. It's what we know. Those are the people we want to help.
Right. Definitely. What about commercial properties, multifamily, larger deals, things like that? Could those people benefit from your service?
Hell yeah. We actually, we do pull multifamily lists. You could still skip trace those people. Obviously, you're probably going to have to take an extra step with LLCs and having to find the members or officers of that. But there is some multifamily that obviously, there's just, owners that are first and last name on these entities. But it's a few more steps you'd have to take. And I think that's something that Ivo's actually working on right now, is to put together some type of bot to, scrape the county records of these people. So the LLCs could, we could get the members or officers' name and try and call them. But we got a triplex that's smaller multi, but we targeted a list multifamily in Maricopa County. And I think we got, just with names alone, we got it back around 30,000 records, I believe. And I think we got one or two deals out of it already from, I think both of them were text message deals though.
Where's this triplex at?
17th Avenue and
I-10.
I-10, yeah.
Okay, right there at the. Okay, I don't want it, but
yeah,
if it was on the other side, I would say I'll take it. But
it's a 2004 build, or it was a newer build.
Yeah, it's decent. But yeah, I think you dabble in the commercial and multi a little bit too, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, we're actually we're negotiating on an 18 unit right now in Uptown, so working on that. So should be. Right now the multifamily space is super crowded, but so is the rest of everything. To kind of go on a tangent, I'm bullish on Phoenix. I think that Phoenix is, people are moving here in just herds, right? From California, from
Agreed.
All of the coastal states that are around us here in Arizona, people are moving here because it's a great place to live. You look around, so much opportunity here. It's great.
It was the fastest growing county again.
Yep. Do you know how many people are moving here every month? The net migration? Any idea?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I don't either, but
I thought you knew. I was like, tell me, please.
No. I know that there's a lot. I want to say it was like 80. Yeah, I want to say somebody said 80,000 came last year, but it has to be more than that. It has to be more than that for sure.
I think a couple of years ago, I heard something, like 10 to 12,000 people, like on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So anyways,
that's a lot of housing. Everybody needs housing. So.
Right. Well, and that's why, you see all the multifamily going up right now. It's everywhere. And that they're saying that that's not even enough for absorption. right? So it's crazy. I love Arizona. That's where we're at, obviously, and things are good. So back to, how has this helped? How has scrubbing the data really helped your business?
It's really just helped us lower our cost per lead down. It has helped us just stay organized, honestly. Like just even like think, even like the addresses that come back as return mail, like anything that you're direct mailing. I mean, are you doing anything with those? We usually skip trace those and cold call them because nobody else is.
Right. So I actually have a stack. It's pretty big now, but a stack of return mail. I really don't get that many. Matter of fact, for April.
That's because that's because the person they use, Alan. I mean, he's pre-clean. He cleans your list though. Obviously with this address standardization and the NCOAs, and the list gets cleaned beforehand. I mean, what if you didn't do that and you mail it to everybody?
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I've actually scrutinized with Alan a lot. I mean, we've had long conversations about how this list has to be scrubbed perfectly every single month because I don't know about you guys, but I don't like throwing money out the window or lighting it on fire. It's not really that fun for me. So, I don't like to do that.
It's 40, 50 cents, per record. And
Right.
That's not even counting the raw data that you pay for as well.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, all of that, there's just a cost for marketing, right? And so basically to kind of sum it up here for the listeners, you really want to focus on your data, right? Because that data is going to give you the best opportunity to have success if your data is good.
Absolutely.
Because if you're mailing or if you're calling or if you're text messaging or whatever it might be, if you're calling the wrong person, you're already set up to fail. Or if you're mailing the wrong person, you're set up to fail from the get-go.
Absolutely.
If it doesn't get to that person, right?
Everything starts with the data that you're using.
And the raw data. Like if I could give your listeners one tip, it's don't listen to what everybody's telling you to do. Like don't just go get the tax default or the vacant. Like go find the code violation list, the tenant eviction list. The further you dig and it's harder to get a list, the better that list's going to be because a lot less people will have that. Like the more creative you are with using data and finding creative data. I heard there's water shutoffs in other market, but if you have to go down and actually to the, downtown and get lists, just not everybody's going to do that. And that's going to be a list that is a lot less hit than hot. It's going to be something that not that many people are touching. So if I could give advice to anybody, especially a new person, is don't just get that generic list. Go get creative because these lists aren't that big. They're $12 to buy and then do as you please with it depending on your marketing costs. But if I could give any advice, that would be my best.
Well, I tell you what, hold on to that for a minute because we're about to go into a lightning round. So are you ready for a lightning round?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
All right. So first question is, what is your hashtag invest this tip to keep our listeners moving forward? If you could give them one.
Well, I just gave mine. So Ivo, go ahead.
Start with the data. I mean, honestly, like that's just my thing. Start with the data. Like there's no secret list. I mean, obviously, like when I first got started is, hey, what's the secret list? What's the list that everybody's getting results on? There is no secret list. Build your own and test it.
That's true.
Yeah, so just start with the data. And I really want to drive that home for the listeners. This whole call has been about data and why it's important and why you as a listener need to focus on your data. First and foremost, if you want to have success out there in this crazy market that we're in across the country, start with your data, right? So thank you for sharing that. What has been an impactful book that you have read that has had a massive impact on your life and business or both?
I guess we could both answer this question, but going back to our mastermind, The Go Giver is one of my favorite books. It changed my life. I would say Go Giver and Extreme Ownership are probably the two books in the last few years that have impacted me the most personally.
Awesome.
Ivo?
Go Giver, same. Honestly, that book really changed a lot of my thinking, a lot of my thought processes, and I'd recommend to anybody. It's a very short read.
Yeah, actually, Brandon, I think gave that to everybody that got in the group, like right at the very beginning. And so it is a phenomenal book, great read. Start with, if you lead with giving, you will always get what you want, right? I mean, that seems to just happen. It's a universal law. I appreciate you sharing that book. So all the listeners out there, go download it. It's on Amazon, I believe. It's
Yep.
You get it on Audible. It'll take you, in your car. You can probably listen to it in a couple of days. So who's giving you the best advice out there? Mentors, coaches, people, the Go-Giver meetup, whatever it is. What has been that advice?
You take this one.
For me, honestly, it's just do it. I mean, literally anything. It's just do it. Yeah. I mean, like, done is better than perfect. You know the saying. It's just, even if you don't have all the answers, just execute it. Just figure out what went wrong, adjust, and try it again.
I agree. I have a lot of people that just say, just go do it, go execute. You test, you learn, and you adjust. But overthinking in this industry, I don't think gets you very far.
No, absolutely not. Matter of fact, ironic you say that. I watched a video last night with Tony Robbins about making decisions. And he said that, the first thing you got to do when you're trying to make a decision, just make it. Because what will happen at that point is either you made the right decision, or if you made the wrong decision, you'll find out real quick and you can correct, right?
Absolutely.
Or learn from it. Absolutely. Agreed.
Yeah, or learn from it. So, great piece of advice for the listeners out there. Thanks for sharing. How do you like to give back?
He gives back a lot.
I get on phone calls with just people. I mean, just had one guy reach out to me yesterday. Hey, I need some help. Hey, I'll call you back I'll call you on my way from work. We'll talk. If I can help you, great. If not, maybe I'll put you in the right direction. And, I try to talk to a lot of people, try to just give a lot of my time. That's the way I try to give back. And also, we try to, even with the skip tracing, if you want to go down there, we try to honestly provide the best value. I mean, Jesse said, some of our products we don't make any money on. It's just giving to people, and hopefully they see value in it, and it'll come back to us in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. It sounds like, you actually care, right? That's the most important part. You're not just out there to make a dollar. You care about the data. You care about people's results. You care about making sure that you can provide that for people. And I think that goes a long way.
Yeah. It's about building, long-term relationships.
Right. I've had a lot of people help me. I'm kind of in his boat. I've literally sat down with people for a full day running through their operation, making no money. Like, people have helped me so much and paid it forward. And I feel like it's, now that we know what we're doing and I've been successful in this space, the people that are coming up that are really actually trying, and you see them grinding and doing everything they can, I will bend over backwards to help them, and I don't need anything from it. It's rewarding for me to see somebody successful on some help I could give them. I actually got tagged on an Instagram post 2 days ago. This guy just closed his first deal, and I talked to him. He DM'd me, and all I did was give him 20 minutes of my time. And I pretty much said what Ivo said, just go do it. Like, don't have an excuse. Don't let people tell you what to do. If you don't have money, call wholesalers in your area, use their old leads, do whatever you can. And he hit me and he's like, hey man, that impacted me. You're one of the people that really helped me. And it was just spending 20 minutes, just giving him some true advice on just go do it. And he had a $12,500 check, literally 2 months after I talked to him. Is pretty impressive.
Wow. That is a massive impact, right? The most important part there is the impact you had on that person's life. And I think, congratulate both of you for being able to give back your time and your wisdom and what your experience has been to help other people. Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters, helping other people, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's a good segue into our last question, which is, how can the listeners reach you? If they want to find out more about data, they want to send you some lists to get data and really understand, or, ask some questions, whatever it might be, where can they find you guys?
Instagram, you could find me Real J Burrell, REAL JBURRELL. Just
Okay.
DM me, or Jesse Burrell, my first and last name, I think will be on this episode. You could message me on Facebook as well and find me. My phone number is on my Facebook as well. So I'm not very hard to find.
Yeah, same. Facebook or Instagram works for me both.
What's your Instagram? His Instagram handle, I believe, is his name.
Just my first and last name.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and we'll make sure to add that into all the show notes. So all the listeners out there, make sure if you want to reach out to them, just check, jump on the website, or their contact information will be all over the place. So Both of you guys, I appreciate you being here. You talked a lot about data. I'm excited for the listeners out there that are, going to actually take what you said and put it to use, take massive action to make it happen.
Yeah. Heck yeah. If seriously, we'll help in any way, shape, or form. Like when I say reach out, like I am more than happy to give you advice. Even if you don't want to use us, if you have questions on data or you're just getting started or you're advanced, like we could just lead you in the right direction and hopefully help you become more successful is ultimately what we're trying to do here.
Awesome. Both of you guys, thank you so much for being here today, and we'll talk to you real soon.
All right. Thanks Scott.
Having us.
All right. See ya.